everyone received mayor, the vice mayor, code enforcement manager, and the communication coordinator got this. It does not fit in the budget to have something like this communicate with everybody on the beach. That's the only way. Not everybody has a computer. Not everybody has a smartphone. It should be in the budget. Send out at least twice a year or each quarter of the year, because people come and go on this beach like flies. Also, I'm repeating, the concrete media time sprayer is still being diffused for those who are supposed to work there, 4 to 8 shift, overlooked by the town council at $50 an hour, $35,000 a year. Amen.
Sir. Next.
Mark Ludwigson. All right.
Mark Ludwigson here speaking,
Mark, take your-
basically about the building,
Oh, you speak there.
basically about the building department. Over the last few years, I've been building spec homes and customer referred homes. So honestly, I've not kept up on the changes with the building department as they have come and they just keep on coming. Would apply for a building permit to find out that the application process has changed again. One of our previous building officials had promised to give him a chance. 2 years in office went from bad to worse. And I'm not speaking just for myself, from many, many, many local contractors here on the beach. Lack of communication being the biggest one. In the past months, I have been doing small jobs by myself, a lot of stair and platform replacements to older stilt homes. I can get into a couple of permit numbers and everything else like that, but the costs have varied tremendously. From one in, for instance, was $371. The next one went to, they told me it would be $525 plus to find out that it was a mistake. And had I not pushed the buttons and the telephone calls and everything else like that, it would have had to been paid at $525. The next job that I quoted, in the meantime, I had quoted at $525. It went back down to the previous price. Now, I understand also that there was an increase in building permits, which really didn't fall underneath. So kind of what I'm getting here is a lot of communication has been trying to get on the telephone to talk to somebody in particular with no response. Okay, they tell me that in their question, in their answer, we're working remotely due to COVID, and if I could email them now, and do not leave a message on the message machine. In the field, sometimes I need a yes or no answer. That's all I need, and I cannot get a telephone response. I can go on about these last 4 permits, the value of them, unbelievably. But what I'm basically here for today, which brings me here today, on Thursday, I contacted Jason Green, setbacks on the lot by email. I try to telephone, no response. No one accepts a phone call. I don't know if COVID is, you can contract it over the telephone. I'm not aware of that yet, but so I emailed, it went back and forth. I had to email him back that there were issues on this lot, because he did email me back saying that, gave me the standard setbacks, which didn't fall in place with this particular lot. I emailed him back late Thursday, late afternoon. He's emailed me back that he wanted to have a Zoom meeting with me, and I don't Zoom. I don't do a lot of this stuff that's new to technology. I emailed him Friday morning at 7 a.m. if there's any way possibly we could meet. I'm clueless to Zoom meeting, as I don't believe you have a survey of the lot. It's very crucial that I know the dimensions of a home that can go on this lot. If you could please let me know a good time, I'll make myself convenient for it. Very disappointed. I had made an appointment with my draftsman engineer for preliminary homes I have to reschedule. Have not heard back as of yet.
Mark, leave your name and number with the clerk before you leave, and someone will call you back later, all right? Thank you. Next, Madam Clerk?
Terry Prasad.
Terry.
I just need your phone.
There's no happy news this. Yes, sir. Yeah, sure, go ahead, Terry.
Okay, thanks.
Morning, Council.
Morning.
My name is Terry Prasad. I'm the owner of Sunset Beach Tropical Grill. I'm here in front of you this morning to get a sign off for my liquor license at the said premises. As most of you are aware, there was a long litigation process regarding this property where my rights to serve alcohol was taken away from me. And we finally got it back on December 12th. I've yet to get the sign off from the town to serve alcohol on the beach. The town's attorney had filed a motion for a rehearing on it, and it was denied. So the second DCA order is finalized. We've talked to Mr. Herring several times, and he's saying he cannot help us. We have to deal with the town's attorney. But it's very clear from the package I've given you. We filed the summary judgment. Basically, it says in the second DCA, the rights on that property was never abandoned. It still exists. And all I need on the second page there's a zoning application from the packet I gave you guys. All we need is a sign off on that. We can obtain our liquor license and continue our business. This has been a grievance that's been going on for 5 years. As you can see from the final judgment, I emailed each one of the council member the final judgment when it came out back in December, and I do have it if you guys want a copy of it. This is just costing me attorney's fees, and it's costing taxpayers of the town of Fort Myers attorney's fees. And, it needs to stop. We need to come to an agreement. There are several other matters on this property that has been gone down the same path for abandonment, and proposed a global settlement to Mr. Herring, and he refused to acknowledge it or to do anything on it. He left it up to the insurance attorneys for the town. I think at some point we need to sit down and do a global settlement, or else there'll be another lawsuit coming. And not that I'm threatening the town, but it just seems that that's the only way we can get anything resolved with the town. So my name and number and email is on there, and I believe I've emailed most of you on several times, so you have my email address. Please reach out to me so we can resolve it. But like the previous gentleman says, the rules have been changing constantly in this town. I have a notice to impose a lien that I've been trying to resolve. The town, I've requested them to show me the citation that they wrote. The town wrote me one citation and imposed 2 fines. And every time I ask, they keep sending me different informations. I'd like for Mr. Herring to reach out to me so I can cut him a check and resolve this. So I don't have to show up in court tomorrow. No, I'm not here trying to argue with the town. I'm a businessman. I'm just trying to do my business. And I've taken one of the worst property in Fort Myers Beach and made it something that I think the town can be proud of. So please assist me any way you can.
Okay, thank you, Terry. We'll bring that up under the attorney's items and see if there's an explanation. Okay, anybody else? That's it. Thank you very much. Okay, local achievements and recognitions is next on the agenda. Start up with you, Councilman Allers.
Just want to say happy birthday to Betty Simpson. As many of you know, she's the chair of ORCAB, as well as many other things that she's done on this island. It's not actually her birthday today, it was a few days ago, but want to wish her a belated happy birthday and thank you for all that she does.
Good. Vice Mayor.
I'd like to thank the Fort Myers Beach Community Foundation for their wonderful fundraising event. A lot of people did a lot of hard work, including our former mayor, and they raised good money, and we appreciate them.
Good. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was not able to attend that. Anita asked me to come down and,
You still can. It's on tape.
well, that's true, that's true. I couldn't do it live, but anyhow, appreciate that. I know, I echo your sentiments to Betty. Of course, I see her a lot and wish her a happy birthday, but she's quite a gal. James?
Nothing at this time, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Going last sometimes with this, but I was gonna the same thing that a couple people did, and just congratulate everyone who had a happy Valentine's Day and hopefully did something romantic.
Okay.
And happy Fat Tuesday.
Go. Okay, the next item is advisory committees, items and reports. Steve, you want to?
My name is Steve Johnson, Chair of the Marine Resource Task Force. I'm here today to request the town council assist us in checking off another initiative off our list. Specifically, it's on the updates to the sea turtle ordinance. After 1 year of the new model ordinance being in place, Marine Resource Task Force reviewed the input from the staff liaison as to how effective it was in its first year. And we made recommended some changes specifically to do with new construction, making it encompassing of updates and additions and things like that. And you'll see that there's really a bit of language regarding interior lighting. That wasn't covered that well in the model lighting ordinance, and we felt like tweaking that just a little bit would help the town staff to manage and administrate the ordinance more effectively. So staff liaison Chad Schutz is completing the updates on the ordinance, and will be submitting it to you for review.
That's great. We've all received it physically today, and I think we've seen it already on the emails. Is this something we want to put on the MP to look at or to discuss further? Is that our?
Good idea. I think it's a good idea.
Okay, well, that's what we'll do, Steve. We'll put it on our management planning, talk about it, and then hopefully it'll come up to the council at a future meeting.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, the objective obviously is to get it in place by the next start of the sea turtle season. Okay, thank you, Mayor.
You can let your wife in if you like. Okay. Okay. It'll be a Fat Tuesday for you. Okay. Okay, next item is the approval of minutes. First is the town council meeting of February 1st, 2021. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Moved.
Second.
Moved, seconded. Any discussions, additions, deletions, corrections? Hearing none. Any objection? Those minutes pass. The next one is the management and planning session, February 4th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Moved.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any objection? Those pass. Next item, we're going to have a presentation by Florida Power and Light. This is a presentation regarding their roadway lighting plans to address the balance between safety and environmental wildlife protection. We have a representative here from Florida Power and Light.
Yeah, yes, we do. We have Eric here, and also we have Robert Hersworth Wood from right remotely. Is that correct?
Calling him right now.
All right, so we're gonna put him on.
Well, good morning and welcome.
Who's the second person again? From, oh, you're both from.
Can you hear us?
Hello?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, Jason, are you good? Eric, you can
Okay,
speak
give us
from the
just a
podium
second. We're
there.
gonna pull up the presentation. Then you can just tell Jason when you need to move to the next slide.
Okay, will do. Let me know when you're ready.
All right. You see it on YouTube?
Looks like I'm a little delayed.
Yep, you're about 10 seconds delayed or so.
Okay. All right, I have the presentation in front of me as well.
Okay.
Okay, I see it now.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, everybody. Good morning. My name is Bob Forswood. I'm the director of the LED Lighting Solutions Group for Florida Power and Light. And so today I just kind of wanted to go over quickly a refresher on FPL, what we do, and how we address turtle sensitive lighting. So you can go to the next slide. Just again, a recap. So Florida Power and Light covers it's the entire east coast of Florida. We're the largest energy company in Florida. We also cover a significant portion of the southwest coast of Florida. A lot of turtle coastline there. A lot of nesting opportunities. We own over 500,000 streetlights, and those streetlights are all customer requested, or you know, we don't go around and just install streetlights where we think we want them. Every single one of those streetlights has been requested and is being paid for by by either municipality or a developer, HOA, commercial account, what have you. The customer decides where they want the light and what kind of light they want us to install, and then FPL provides that light. Next slide. FPL, we're very, very proud of some of the things we've accomplished lately. We're consistently one of the cleanest electric utilities in the United States, very environmentally friendly. Along with that, we're also the most reliable electric utility in the United States. Very, very proud of that. Imagine storms we have, lightning storms on a daily basis, and we have the lowest amount of downtime from an electric utility standpoint out of anybody in the nation paying something. And all that being the case, we're also one of the most affordable utilities in the nation. Being clean and reliable without being affordable is with being affordable is very, very something we're very proud of. Next slide. To drill down on the cleanest, we have the largest community solar program in the United States. You might have heard of our 30 by 30. We're installing 30 million solar panels by 2030. We're ahead of schedule on that. It'll be by far the largest community solar installation in the world. We also own and maintain the world's largest solar powered battery. It goes down every day and you still need power. So that is the storage that the backup storage that we use for solar power. And we're also exploring innovative green hydrogen technologies. We have our own installation on that. And in Central Florida there. We're constantly looking at ways to be greener and more environmentally friendly. Next slide. So along with being sensitive to the environment, we were notified years and years ago now that streetlights may have a detrimental effect to turtle hatchlings and during the nesting period. This is way before LED. And we were notified that we have hundreds, if not thousands, of streetlights that are disorienting the seed turtle hatchlings when they hatch at night. So they're trying to follow the moonlight, and they're getting confused on what is the moonlight, is it a street light, and they go the wrong way. So we were asked many, many years ago to start to turn off streetlights during sea turtle nesting season. And depending where you are in Florida, it could either be in March and November or May and November. So that would involve us sending streetlight crews to every single one of those lights and turning them off. Not super efficient doing it that way. So about 7 years ago, we installed smart nodes, network lighting controls on every one of those lights, every one of all of our 500,000 lights, where we could remotely control them from the office and schedule them there. So that helped out on the efficiency side of it and making sure that we didn't miss any. We're still had an instance where we didn't have street lighting. The communities didn't have street lighting for months on end during sea turtle nesting season. That could develop some risk issues with no lights for pedestrians or drivers during that period of time. So it's got to be a better situation, right? So next slide. Then LED came along, and from this slide, the sea turtle friendly LED option wasn't the greatest. We got a lot of pushback on this, but this was the first one that came out that were friendly to sea turtles, right? We could leave them on all year round. Not attractive, but safe for sea turtles. So that was our first way to get through this. And we got some pushback on that, obviously. So we developed, we got back with our manufacturers and said, okay, there's got to be a better way to do that. Let's try this. And so go to the next slide. After a few years, the manufacturers got together with us and with Fish and Wildlife, and we were able to add some new fixtures that had more of an amber tint. So we had a little bit of better color rendition, looked more natural, looked almost like the high pressure sodium that we were replacing, but this is an LED. These are some shots of us testing these different lights in one of our testing facilities. I think that Fish and Wildlife were here for this day in these shots. You can also see on the middle image, you see that the light has a house side shield on it. You can't see the source, where on the far right image, you can see the source. So along with the color of the light, you have to shield it. Even the most amber or the most red light, if the source of the light is still visible by the turtles, they'll still go the wrong way. So we're trying to be very customer centric and understand the needs and demands of the customer, at the same time balancing that with environmental needs. So we are able to add some different options. All of these lights were tested through our very rigorous FPL standards, and that involves surge testing. You know, we mentioned the surge environment that we have, the lightning environment here in Florida, and so we have surge and lightning. They just eat up LED fixtures, and so we have to require manufacturers to install surge protection devices, really beefy ones inside of our fixtures, and then we also realize that these are going to be near the beach a lot, so we don't want the paint to flake off after a couple of years. We want, or them to rust. So we put fixture to test inside of salt fog chambers, and they go in there for 4 months, and they come out. There's no paint flaking or bubbling, and there's no rust, and that's a pass. Most manufacturers don't pass in the beginning, which is something that they want to do because we buy a lot of fixtures, and so then they'll try again, and they'll say, okay, we put a better paint coat on this, and it lasts longer, and then we'll try them again. Because we own and maintain these fixtures forever, we want to make sure that they look good for the customer and that they last a long time. So all of these fixtures have to go through that process. Next slide. So for turtle lights, we have turtle friendly lights. We have 3 different options. 2 that are more standard street lighting options that you may see. And kind of through this, and then a decorative fixture that's we call a burn, and that is if you want to maintain more of a nautical look. And all of these fixtures were tested and approved by the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. You can see the different wattages and lumen outputs there. Unfortunately, because of the color of the light, we don't get as efficient as we would with white LED lights. It's just a nature of the chemistry that is required to be a turtle friendly light. Next slide, please. So when requesting a turtle-friendly street light, we need to know a few things. One is, where is that light going to go? Which light do you want? And then if you see, and then, yeah, click through this one too. If you see on the far right image, the image of the beach, and I had some red circles on there. So if you're lighting the roadway from the beach side, and then we need to know that because we need to put a back shield on that light. If on the other hand, you're lighting from the building side, then we need to put a front shield on there, if that's clear to everybody. Either way, there is a requirement of a shield, and that's something we need to know. And next slide, please. So, along with the FPL lights that we own and maintain, we also have a service that we can replace customer-owned street lights and parking lot lights. We call it hybrid. It's we come in and we work with the customer to determine exactly what their needs are, and we install an FPL fixture onto a customer-owned pole, and that way they can go forward with LED that is owned and maintained by us, and they won't have to worry about it anymore. If light goes out or gets lightning or something happens, they just let us know and we'll replace it. All part of the service fee. The service can be accessed by working with one of our LED lighting experts, and we have 16 throughout the state. You can also go to fpl.com/LED, and there's a catalog link there. You can see all the different fixtures that are available. Not all are turtle friendly. Not all of them have to be. Most lights that we own and maintain aren't right on the coast. But there's a lot of great options there. And if you want to speak to somebody, 844 for FPL LED, or you can email ledlighting@fpl.com. And that's what I had. Last slide is banner. So if there's any questions or concerns, please let me know.
Any questions for the presenter?
I'll start if I might,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. Bob, do you have anything that's focused on Fort Myers Beach today, or is this just kind of a generic proposal? We're very appreciative of your time, but have you guys done any research into Fort Myers Beach's challenges? And do you have any comments on anything that's germane to Fort Myers Beach specifically?
So this is the presentation I had. We have spoken to several people at town of Fort Myers Beach as to their needs. We recommend lighting. What type of light the customer decides and FPL provides. So if you would like a turtle-friendly light, great, we can do that for you. We'd be happy to do that. Just tell us where to put it and which one you want. If you have a different need, then let us know that, and we can do that. We're not in the design business. We're in the providing business.
Bob, is it fair to say then that the town needs to either have on staff someone with this expertise or hire a consultant, then put forth a proposal to FPL? Is that your position?
So usually that's done by, if there's a public works group or a parks and recs group, we work with those, our town engineers. Or sometimes if the town doesn't have a staff like that, then yes, and they would go out to a consulting firm, engineering firm, and then we would work directly with them.
And if it's a county road, the same would be true with the county. Is that fair?
Yeah, exactly. We work with FDOT. If it's an FDOT road or a county road, or if it's your road, then we would work directly with you.
Bob, are you aware of any of the history of the challenges that Fort Myers Beach has experienced thus far with respect to cost and estimates and sort of there's just maybe it's not fair to you, Bob, but certainly there's a perception that Florida Power and Light has not been responsive. I'm just going to say, as you know, Florida Power and Light is a monopoly, and based upon the regulatory compact, you're given that monopoly you're given that monopoly status in return for, you get a guaranteed, a reasonable return on your investment, but in return for that, you have an obligation to serve, you have an obligation to provide safe, reliable, and affordable service. It seems like the experience that we've had thus far with not responsive to the needs of Fort Myers Beach. And in terms of what you're offering us, in terms of having it be in sync with our environmental concerns and have it be in sync with some of our cost challenges. Is it your position today that you have a completely hands-off perspective on these issues and you're just going to provide whatever options you currently have? In other words, you don't have any flexibility to find something unique for our needs, put forth a tariff before the Public Service Commission that might be specifically helpful to Fort Myers Beach? Are you just giving us kind of your standard options this morning? In other words, is there nothing you can do to uniquely help serve the needs of Fort Myers Beach?
Well, I guess we'd have to work together and see what do you need and what can we offer to meet your need.
You're not aware of any of the history. Yeah, you're not aware of any of the history. Yeah.
Super customer centric, as I mentioned, all those lights that we own and maintain, they were not at our behest; they were at the customer's behest. And the reason why we have turtle lights now and 60 different lights to choose from versus 3 in the past is because we want to be as accommodating to the customer's needs and demands and wants as we can. We have fixtures that are very economical and they provide light exactly where you need it. And then we have other ones that are much more decorative and higher end. And we try to run the gamut as much as we can. You may be speaking of a light technology that we are looking at, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the one that was approached to us was have a dual light, one that was white during non-turtle, and then would flip to an amber during turtle nesting season.
Right.
We are looking at that. Is that what you're speaking of?
Well, that is certainly a option. You all are the experts, and we were hoping that you could give us something that would be helpful to Fort Myers Beach specifically, given the challenges that we've had thus far.
I guess if I had more specifics on what your challenges are and what we could provide you to make it happen.
I'm still not hearing the answer to the question that he asked earlier. We were told some time ago that a tariff program was available to us. When we asked if we could get anything that was turtle friendly, we were told no, that the white LED was all that was available under the tariff program. Is that still true?
No, we have those three turtle friendly lights that are available.
Under the tariff program?
Yes, correct. Yep.
Well, 2 years ago, we were told that that was not the case. So there's been a change?
Yes, that has been changed. So 2 years ago, we had that red light that people not like, and so we went to the manufacturers. We went to Fish and Wildlife, and it doesn't happen quickly. Right, the manufacturers have to design it, they have to build it, they have to test it their own self, and then they give it to us, and then we have to run it through our paces, and that's what we did with those 3 fixtures.
Are all 3 fixtures available under the tariff program? Are all 3 of the fixtures that you talked about available under the tariff program?
Yes, they are.
It's an improvement.
That's a big help.
The biggest light that you have that you mentioned, the XL 140 watt light, how does that perform compared to one of the typical lights that we have on the island here? And I realize we have quite a hodgepodge of lights here.
Maybe you can, I think Eric or Chelsea could tell me what exactly you have today.
200 watt high
I think
pressure
there's
sodium.
a little bit of it. You said hodgepodge.
Their vast majority left are 200 watt high pressure.
What kind of lumens they generate? What kind of lumens those volume of lights generate?
So, yes, so that's kind of the misnomer with lumens. So when you're talking the older technology, they talk about lamp technology and how many lumens the light bulb produces. So a 200-watt lamp would produce 20,000 something lumens. That's not the right number, but it's in the ballpark, right? And when we measure an LED fixture, it's the number of lumens that comes out of the fixture. So then we say it's 6,000 lumens or it's 5,000 lumens. What comes out of the fixture from a high pressure sodium standpoint is really about 60% of that. So if you go from 20,000 down to 12,000 lumens, then you also have a lot of light that goes behind, 40% of that light that comes out actually goes behind the pole and not in front of the pole. So there's a lot of inefficiencies that are addressed by LEDs. That being said, RSW XL, the 140 watt, 5300 lumen, that's the largest friendly fixture that we have found on the market. Direct one-for-one replacement with 200 watt, are you going to get the same amount of light on the ground? Probably not. But that's the largest one on the market that we've found so far.
Since
There's just an inefficiency inherent to the amber LEDs. If that was a white LED, 140 watts would be way overkill for a 200 watt high pressure sodium replacement. We'd probably want to go into the 80, 100 watt white LED.
Since you're telling me that it's relatively recent, just in the past 2 years, that you've approved these 3 amber fixtures for the tariff program, can you name for me any governmental entities, towns, cities that you have completed a project with that we could talk to about their experience?
I believe, so I think we've installed some at Delray Beach.
Delray
And I
Beach?
think some throughout, it was either City Miami or Miami Beach probably, but I can get you a list of those and get back to you with that one.
Please do that, thank you.
I have a question. This is Mayor Ray Murphy. Those 3 options that you have available, is there any way that we could get some of those installed down here after it's decided jointly between the town of Fort Myers Beach and the county of Lee, who actually owns this boulevard out here that we all use every day? Is there any way we could get, after we decide jointly, get a sample of some of those and throw them up on a couple of these poles somewhere, and we can get an idea of what kind of light they actually throw off? Something that's possible?
Love to be able to help you out with that.
Say that again?
We can't do a sample, but if you'd like to, so what a lot of customers do is they will just, I got 100 lights on my system. Let me sign for 1 light, and now we'll install the 1 light, and then you can take a look. But we do require a streetlight agreement to be signed by the town to be able to do that.
Yeah, it seems to me we know where the bad spots are here on the island, and we could pick out a couple of those, and you could throw these up there with the non-turtle season light and the turtle season light, and we can might make it easier for us to decide what it is that we need down here or want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I will tell you. So the burn light, which is the more decorative light, so if you talk to the town of Palm Beach, they were going throughout their island with a decorative post top, and they saw this burn light, and even the fixtures that are not on the coast don't need to be turtle light. They just fallen in love with that burn light, and they have. It's low speed limit, neighborhood lighting, but they've gone pretty much island wide with this light that they really, really like. So it doesn't have to be a turtle light. It can be just a neighborhood light as well.
Maybe I'll call the mayor of Palm Beach, although he's got a little bit more on his mind these days, but I'll give him a jingle and see what he says. Sir.
Bob, first I want to thank you for taking the time to give us a a brief presentation. But if I'm going to be brutally honest, I don't feel that you've given us any information that we didn't already know. And why we didn't have some of this information before we started this presentation baffles me. But that's a whole nother story. The issue I'm having is I'm hearing a lot of what you can't do, not necessarily what you can do for us. I see you've got those 3 options up there. And this is a major problem that we're having. I'm concerned that FP&L doesn't necessarily understand the gravity of some of the issues we have down here with the lighting and not being able to see. Just these 3 options that you mentioned, it seems very, very short-sighted in my opinion, as to a solution to a problem. I understand your point about you tell us what you want and we'll install them, but was kind of hoping to hear a little bit more from the experts as to what you would recommend we can use, in a unique situation that we have here. You had mentioned that if we were to buy fixtures and you would install them, would FP&L entertain someone else's lights, someone else putting lights on their poles?
No, if it's our pole, if it's an FPL pole, it would have to be an FPL light.
You also,
Again, if you're, I guess what the miss is what don't we have that could meet your need?
well, I guess I could turn that right back around again and ask you, what is it that you do have that fits our needs? The point is the fact that it doesn't appear this FP&L understands what our needs here on the island are. I mean, you look up at the screen that's up there now and you just see numbers. People just see numbers. They don't understand lumens. They don't understand wattage. They don't understand customer, the color index. They don't understand this stuff. And no one seems to want to explain to the general public what this means, how it works for the island, how it would affect turtles and public safety. It just, there's no information that's being given out, just slides with numbers. And I guess that's where I'm having a little concern and I'm a little frustrated, is this just seems to be not an issue for FP&L, in my opinion.
I have to interject.
But I must have done a bad job. We can't offer everything that's available. We try to offer as much as we can. There is a balance of okay, so if we offer much more from a catalog standpoint, and we get another big hurricane, and we'll never be able to get those fixed and placed in any kind of acceptable time frame. Right? We just don't have the space to store all these different fixtures and know where they go. So we have to limit that. There's also a limitation in technology. So like you've seen our territory, it's all coastline. And for the most part, and every city is on the coast, and we have turtle lights there that seem to be acceptable. They're as big as they get. That RSW XL is the biggest one on the market that has been accepted by FPL. And if another one, if we need a bigger one, we'll work with the manufacturer to develop something like that as well. Again, it doesn't happen quickly. We have to design it, build it, we have to test it, they have to test it, and so on and so forth. We are looking at a dual light, white and then amber. That is a really tough cut. We talked to other utilities that have tried that in the past, and it doesn't work. That there's a control issue. How do you switch it on and off? We can turn them on, we can turn them off, but how do you turn half of it off and the other half one on at the right time? And the manufacturers that have it, they even haven't figured it out yet. We're trying to. I mean, the fact that we have some turtle lights and more than we ever had in the past, I think lends the fact that we're listening and we'd love to be able to help you out. We want to provide an excellent service that meets all your needs. And right now, it just might not exist, what you're asking for.
Well, I can appreciate you giving us the information on the turtle lights, and although that's very important, there's also another aspect that has to be talked about that isn't getting talked about, and that's the public safety part of it. It's excellent that these lights will work for the turtles, but I have not heard any explanation of how these 3 lights
People
will
lights.
work to protect bicyclists, cars, people walking down the streets. We're a unique island that goes from 7,000 residents to 60,000 people for 3 months. And the turtles aren't always here. We have to look at the other side of it as well. These may be excellent for turtles, but how do they work for pedestrian safety?
Yeah, they do not work as well for pedestrian safety, and that's kind of the double-bladed sword is you kind of get one or the other. We did have, with that red light that we had before, or turning off the light, that was a terrible solution, but that's all they had at the time. Now going with the amber, it is better for sure. I'm not aware of any studies that talk about white versus the amber light, but just from a volcano standpoint, if you look at what FDOT recommends or what the IES recommends as far as light levels and uniformity, it's really tough to hit that with the turtle light lumen output. So you would either have to put a lot more fixtures on the road, get up to that light level, or just go with white light where they are right now and shield them as best you can.
And this is part of the issue that, sorry to monopolize the time here, guys, but this is part of the issue that I'm personally having is it's the stance of, well, you can't have both. It's one or the other. And I find it very hard to believe that the technology in a company of your size hasn't got the technology out there able to at least get closer to a solution, as opposed to you can have this or you can have this.
So with lighting, it's not an exact science, but on the other hand, it kind of is, right? So but nobody will ever put out a light that says, okay, this is the safe light and this is the turtle light, right? It's this is the light that puts out this many lumens, and you tell us how much you require. You tell us what kind of light levels you want on the street. There's every town has its own lighting ordinance as far as foot candles and uniformity, and what we can try to meet that as best we can with the lights that we have. And that's what we try to attain.
Some of this is Bill Veach. Some of the reading I've done is that, white lights are not a panacea for safety. They produce a lot of glare and they create very hard shadows, but they throw light a long way. The amber lights, which I know are better than the red because they're a little cooler, they don't create as hard of shadows, but they don't throw the light as far, which tells me a couple things. And one is that if you have to put more lights, you also will put them lower. Just putting them higher doesn't do you any good if there's not enough lumens and they're not throwing it far enough away. So it means that if we have to put in extra poles, those poles should be a lot cheaper than the $10,000-$15,000 cement which you put all your power lines on. I think that there's a lot of advantages to putting in an amber light that doesn't produce the glare, the hard shadows, even though you don't get the kind of color definition. And the other thing is just the idea of having to turn lights off through half of the year creates all kinds of public safety issues. And one other question we were talking about a while ago, how would the tariff program work with these lights? Is it just for the lights, for the power? Is this for the installation? How does that work?
It depends on I believe just replacing lights right now. So you have FPL lights that are high pressure sodium. So we could do a conversion to the LED right away at no out of pocket upfront expense to that. That would just sign a new agreement for the lights that you would like and where you want them to be, and then we would convert them, and then you'd be paying at the new rates. Depending on which you choose, the bill could go up or down. Just with all our different options, it just depends on what you'd like.
What about additional lights?
Additional lights. So the poles and installation that would also come with it. Sometimes there is an upfront payment required if there's not a pole existing. If you're adding more poles, If it's overhead fed, then I don't think that there's a payment required, but if you require underground, we would need to charge for trenching or boring, unless you want to hire a contractor to do that. But if it was all on FPL and it was going to be underground, there would be a charge for that.
So if we had to put in extra lights, would it be feasible for us, and could we go with a separate entity to put the extra lights in and just use you for the existing lights?
Yeah, absolutely. You could certainly do that.
Bob, just to clarify that one more time. So you're saying that the tariff will cover replacing the existing lights with one of these 3 turtle lights. If we need additional poles because we're converting to turtle lights, FPL will cover the majority of that, the tariff as well. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, so yeah, if you choose these 3 lights or any non-turtle friendly light, that is all covered under the tariff. If you wanted new FPL lights in addition to what you have today, and that would be in the tariff as well. We would cover a portion of that. There could be some construction on that. If you wanted FPL to install poles, then have somebody else install fixtures onto our pole, we do not allow that.
Bob, since we have you here this morning, could you just go through these 3 options one more time? Talk about advantages and disadvantages given what you've heard thus far this morning.
The 3 options of the 3 turtle lights?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So 3 options are if you have a low wattage, high pressure sodium fixture today, a 70 watt or 100 watt fixture, and it was just a standard street light, then that's probably a good solution with the RSW large, the 90 watt fixture. If you had higher wattage than that, you wanted to stick with a, if you had a 3-lane, 4-lane roadway, then you probably want to go with the RSW XL to get as close as a 1-for-1 replacement as you could. And if you had an area that was more neighborhood, didn't require as much light, and you wanted more decorative lighting, then you could go with that burn fixture, which is the 60 watt 1900 lumens. That's all areas that have to have a turtle friendly street light.
Bob, do any of these lights have a CRI on them? I know the previous slide, the red one showed that there was no CRI. Do any of these have any CRI?
Great question.
Good. What's CRI?
Color rendition.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. So CRI stands for Color Rendering Index.
Thank you.
And it's typically it's a scale of 0 to 100. 0 meaning you can't tell colors at all, like that red light right there. And 100 being, the sun is shining on noon and you can tell colors perfectly. High pressure sodium, which is what you're replacing, has a CRI of about 20. So you can tell reds and yellows really well, but you can't tell blues and greens. So a lot of things look kind of different colors, different shades of orange. LED, white LED, has a CRI between 70 and 80. Turtle light, it's better than 0, but I've been waiting and I've been requesting what the CRI is on these, and I have not gotten it back. I would imagine it's probably in the 10 to 20 range.
The what range?
10 to 20 CRI is what I'm guessing. I think they were trying to claim it higher, but they haven't shown me those documents yet. So we're still waiting on that.
Any other questions for Bob?
One, your partner here described the current street lighting that we have. It would say that again, just for the record.
200 watt high pressure sodium.
Could Bob, if you could go to the next slide with the 3, or Chelsea with the 3 choices. The three turtle friendly choice. There we go. So it sounds like, given the extent of Estero Boulevard today, maybe the second choice might be most appropriate. I don't know. We'll have to analyze that. But given what you know that you're here today, and what you know about this light that's being proposed, what would the average citizen see in terms of difference on the roadway, one versus the other? Can you give us some sense of things?
I believe they would see a decrease in the amount of light.
Decrease.
Yeah, the number you gave, the ones we have now have an equivalent of like 12K, 12,000 lumens, and the biggest one that he's showing there is 5,300, and that amber light doesn't throw as far.
If I could give a point of reference as well, something that Chuck asked, the side streets that we have already converted represent a 28 watt, 3,300 lumen fixture, as well as I believe 41 or 5 watt fixture that has 5,000 lumens. Reference.
Those are white, right? The ones that are on the.
Or 3,000 Kelvin.
When I've been driving along Estero Boulevard, I've noticed that, and this is not a scientific study, but what I've noticed is it looks like there's only a light on about every other pole. Is that pretty accurate?
Yes, it is.
We would be able to increase by putting lights on more poles without adding additional poles, correct?
That's correct.
And do you think that would be mostly sufficient for the situation, considering?
Efficiency has to come from the council and standards they're looking to set from.
I mean,
But we're not gonna pin you down. Better than what it is now?
Yes.
Okay.
And it would still be available for a tariff, even though there isn't a light on that pole right now?
That's correct.
I think, getting back to we have our designer, I think it will answer those questions.
Just wanted to point out that there's a lot of poles without any lights on them now.
Yeah,
that
that's
We don't have
improved
necessarily have to
upon.
buy.
In the past, when we had spoken to kind of talk to that real quick, the previous study that was completed did call for a certain foot candle requirement, and the spacing is what got very, very tight. That's why there was an exuberant amount of fixtures that we called out for based on standard that was set on that study. That's one reason that we had asked. The current poles along Estero Boulevard are hardened transmission poles. So we also have some setback requirements that would need to be looked at. So to do like the decorative, which I've actually spoken with some of the engineering contacted. There are some neat options that you can look at, especially at the crosswalks with a friendly option with that fixture, for example, because it may be low enough that would meet the setback requirements from the existing mission that's currently.
Our consultant could recommend to you to place the fixtures lower on the poles, and you would comply with that?
Absolutely.
Manager, do you have any questions or comments or?
My comment goes back to Counselor, I think it was Counselor Adderholt, who A, asked for this presentation, but B, I would really like to know, Rob, if you can get us a list of who's using each of these 3 options that are coastal communities, so that we can contact them and at least verbally hear what their experience was.
Road trip.
You got it. I'll start making inquiries and find out who that is and get you a list.
And also, I also kind of point out that, the technology in this is really evolving quickly. And probably when the town was first looking into this, these options didn't exist. So,
Well, they did exist, it's just FPL wouldn't offer them to us.
were they, well, even some of them, I
and
don't
they're
know.
still not.
Well, we'll get to that. Any other questions?
Just for the record, the gentleman that's here today, who, your name and what's your role with FPN?
Yes, Eric Culling, senior representative with that.
So just to help you, Counselor, Eric is like our local guy. Okay, and Rob is over many Erics.
Thank you for being here, Eric. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Eric. Who is your contact, your person with Lee County? Who is your person downtown?
Rob.
Rob. Okay.
Phelan, right?
I'd love for you to tell Rob that we're having these discussions. I'm sure he already knows it, and that he can pass on to his powers to be that we're going to have a dialogue. We're going to have a mutual dialogue. Okay.
Just one more quick.
Was there a challenge in the past? Or?
I don't know. And I don't know that there is a challenge, but
Is the MPO still going to be involved?
I hope so.
Okay.
I hope so.
That was some dialogue we had as well. Was also set up a good open dialogue.
What we have to bear in mind here is that Estero Boulevard is a county road. the county owns Estero Boulevard. Now, while we have a certain amount of residents down here, Councilman alluded to it earlier, we have 10,000 people or so, give or take a few here or there. Right now, if you go out that door, there's 50 or 60,000 out there, which are being brought in by the county of Lee. We're not complaining. I'm just making a point. So there has to be a collaboration between the county and the town in this matter. And I want Rob to know that, and I want his superiors to know that. Thank you. Anything else?
And these people that are here are generating tax money for the county.
Exactly. I mean, those debates are obvious, and but they have to be they have to be brought up now and then to remind people of the situation. So, Rob, on the line, I want to thank you for your time and your presentation, and I'm sure you've met rougher councils than this one before, and I thought they were all good questions that were asked this morning. And Eric, you as well. Thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, before they leave, can I ask just one more quick
Oh,
question?
what? We have a final question here.
Hold on, Robert.
Rob and Eric, of these three lights, you had mentioned earlier the ability to warm dim one of the other lights. You were able to go from the white down to the amber. Are any of these or any lights that you have in the tariff available for warm dimming?
I'm sorry, you broke. Did you say dimming?
Yeah, you were talking about earlier going from the bright light, essentially, warm dimming or color tuning, however you want to say it, from the bright white down to the amber color. Are any of these fixtures or any of the fixtures in the tariff program available to do that feature?
No, not at this point. We're still in the early stages of testing that out and figuring out how we can control it. We have received one fixture from a manufacturer so far. It has failed almost immediately. And so we're working with them to fix that, and we expect some other manufacturers to submit fixtures that do what you're asking for. I think that would be a fantastic idea for us to offer, assuming that it works, right? So we got to make sure that it works first, and then we would put that in our offering. It's going to take several months at least, if not a year, before we feel comfortable enough with the technology to be functional and reliable.
I know that there's other municipalities around the country that have already used this. I'll have to do some research to find out what company it is that manufactured those lights that they're using to do this. Can you tell me the manufacturer of the light that you said you've tested that keeps failing?
Yeah, I won't tell you that. I'll tell you that we work with all the larger manufacturers, Signify and Acuity and Cree and GE and Cooper Lighting, and we're trying to get them all to be approved for these particular lights. And we've spoken to some of those municipalities and utilities that have offered this technology, and they've had I wouldn't say terrible, but not good results so far. That's the things that is really concerning us as well. And we want to make sure that whatever we do offer is going to last a long time.
Right.
And I would just add, Robert, too, that you realize that we're a fairly small town, but that a lot of your customer base is along coastal areas. There's a lot of roads that you have that are similar to ours. So we do appreciate working a solution for us that'll actually have a lot of benefits for you and your other customers.
Oh, but believe me, I would love nothing more than to find the right solution for it. You said this would be a great solution for more than just town of Fort Myers Beach.
All right, that's what we like. That's the way we're going to end it up, and that's what we want to hear. That sounds great. So we appreciate your time again, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your presentation, and we look forward to moving ahead cooperatively in the future.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Could we yield briefly to the town manager, just for explanation of who's responsible for the costs on Estero Boulevard for lighting?
Estero Boulevard is a county-owned and maintained road. County has, to my knowledge, has set what they call sort of a standard in terms of what they provide. It's arbitrarily set by the county commission. And they say that anything you want beyond that, they would call basic level of services, the adjacent property owners, in this case, the town of Fort Myers Beach, can purchase at their own cost as an upgrade. That's pretty much the position they've taken. Our task is to get them to understand that public safety and the fact that we're a principal tourist destination maybe requires some special consideration.
Roger, do you interpret what you just said as anything outside what is currently covered by the tariff not be covered by the county? Is that how you interpret the status quo?
Well, I think that we're currently leasing lights, and because we've gone beyond the basic level of services. So under the tariff, basically at no cost, as I understood Rob's comments, we can switch those out to LED lights. There's basically the tariff covers the cost of exchanging the heads and mast arms if necessary. Problem that, as I understand it, is the very problem that Council Beach and Allers was alluding to, which is the fact that by switching to their brightest, if you will, turtle light, you don't get the same lighting coverage in terms of from the sort of the safety perspective, the vehicle pedestrian safety perspective. That requires additional lights. As the vice mayor said, we could add lights on the poles that currently don't have lights to try to better improve the lighting safety coverage aspect of it. But even with that, if I understood what Rob said, you may have a net reduction. So clearly, whether the county pays for them or we pay for them, the FP&L option is going to be the cheaper option only because they have poles. Where you start getting into a more expensive option is when you add poles via private contractor and or FP&L. You have to evaluate is getting perhaps a fixture you desire more is worth that cost. And then, of course, that cost is how perhaps the split with the county might work itself out to be. So there's a lot of what ifs in there, Counselor, for me to give you sort of a yes or no type of answer there.
I'm not looking for a yes or no. I'm just trying to get some background for folks who might be watching. So really, it sounds like if we go outside these three fixture options that are turtle friendly, the FP&L's not going to allow, if it's a turtle friendly fixture that they don't offer, it sounds like FP&L would not.
They won't put it on their pole.
They will not put it on their
You
pole.
can put it on a private pole.
I appreciate
Or
that.
you could add their poles, and
Supplementing.
to augment that, to try to fill in the areas that perhaps need supplemental lighting beyond what you could accomplish by putting turtle-friendly lighting on not only the existing poles, but all the poles. You still may need some additional, if you want to try to match up with the current lighting levels in certain areas. And the other factor you have is you have the sort of not only the spillage back of the lights because of the sodium vapor, so you actually get some spillage on the sidewalk, which the turtle lighting, gilded hose you may not get. So, you're going to lose that perhaps no matter which of those options you might pick. But the point being is, and I think the mayor made this point, there's a lot of what ifs in this whole thing. Perhaps the easiest thing to do at this point is to say, hey, let's sign an agreement and put 5, 6, 12 lights, the turtle lights up, let everyone observe them, let us observe them, let's see what the impact is. Maybe it's better than we think, maybe worse than we think, but we'll know. Or, as I think the vice mayor said, road trip. You know, we can go take a look at various places where the 3 different lights are in and go see what they look like there. I mean, there's a couple of different ways to approach this. You know, one thing I do want to say, that this is not a unique problem to the town of Fort Myers Beach. I know the 5 of you know that. I hope the public will pick up on that. What we might get now, you know, in 5 years or 6 years will probably be obsolete anyway. And it'll be something, hopefully something better offered by FP&L. You know, I think I was going to give you a word of caution. It would be about, you know, if you buy a private system, it may be great today. It'll take you a long time to amortize those costs, and in X number of years, there could be something bigger and better out there.
I concur with the mayor's suggestion of doing a pilot program with each of these fixtures. So, and that's something that could be done relatively quickly, even as we discuss bringing on a consultant. I think that would be nice for the public to see, and everyone doesn't have the luxury of road tripping. So I think that would be nice for have the 3 fixtures here on the island, have a pilot program. People can see them, they can get a sense of what it is. And that would, at least people would begin to see the ball starting to roll forward. And I think that could be very helpful.
The only thing I would kind of caution too is that, you know, the real battle seems to be getting enough lumens out of these amber lights. If you did a sample program and everyone liked these burn lights that don't really put out a whole lot of information, it would be a very, very expensive thing to try to, you know, paint the entire boulevard with that. But I do think that the other thing I would caution against too is that one of the problems I know we have here now, and one of the things that does create a safety risk, is when you have different colors and different levels of illumination as you're going up and down the boulevards. If people drive from a white light, yellow light to no light, it's hard for the eyes to adjust. So we put in a bunch of amber lights in one area that might create a really odd optical impression for people when they're driving by. Maybe something like, you know, Old San Carlos or something that's really not on the boulevard might be a suitable place to try different lights.
I think we're getting too far into the weeds on some of this. You know, I could tell you one light as a test program is you're not gonna be able to tell anything from one light. I tell you that. You put it's too high up. There's other lights. There's other factors. What I think is missing is the fact of what they told us. They told us, we won't tell you what you need, but we can provide you stuff. If you want to provide it or we provide it, we can provide it. But they've specifically said, we can't tell you what you need. That's what consultants do. That's what they've done. They've told us what we need. And I can tell you the technology is out there to do it. Now, FP&L may not have it in their program or their tariff program to do it, but the technology is there to do exactly what we want it to do. Now, it comes at a cost. So, to me, it seems like it should be a process before you talk about what they do here, what they do there, similar to like we did with the arches. If we want the county's participation in it, we need to tell them what we need, and this is why we need it, and this is why we think it's the best option, or second or third option. And then go to them and ask them what they're willing to help with. I think we're trying to put the cart before the horse here. We've beat this study to death. In the last 5 years, I've been paying attention to it. And it seems like we just want to keep moving it along and try and just wait and try and just wait. There's other ways that you can do what you're talking about, a pilot program, without having to involve poles. You could set a mock thing up in here and turn the lights off and show different colors under different lights. There's things that you can do that are not very expensive. You can do it fairly reasonable, fairly easy. I think we need to more at that than solutions there. I guess what I'm trying to say is this, there's a solution already out there. The technology is there. Town manager is correct. Roger's correct that technology is going to change. Look at your television. Bring it home, you take it out of the box. Your computer, in 2 years, it's outdated. There's something new that's out there. That's going to happen no matter what you do with technology. The technology is there to do what we need to do. It's just going to come at a price. And I think we owe it to the people to let them know what that cost is. We can go with FP&L and it's this much, or we can go this route or this route. 2 or 3 options, and let the people tell us what they're willing to pay for.
Oh, no, that's, thank you. It's kind of why I was getting back to where I was with Lee County earlier. Lee County has built us a beautiful road, beautiful new road out here, and we're thankful. We're thankful. You know, we're not looking at a gift horse in the eye here. We're thankful for that. But what that's done is it's created much easier road to traverse up and down and everything else. And it's further put our pedestrians in peril because it's a poorly lit road where people are crossing all the time throughout the island up and down. And the cars are going faster than ever. People are getting hit. So until we figure out a way, and I don't think it's that hard to figure out, to flood that boulevard in the wintertime when there's no turtles and there's lots of people, light it up like a Christmas tree in the wintertime, in the tourist season, and then back it off during the turtle season when it's just us down here and we can handle it. That's where we want to be. Now, naturally, if we try to do that on our own without exclusive outside of FP&L, it's going to cost us a lot of money. It's not our entire expense to bear. It's not our expense to bear. This is something that we have to participate, Lee County. It's their road. Why would you build a new road and not illuminate it? Why would you build a new road and make it more traffic friendly and less pedestrian friendly? Why would you do that? We need their participation, and I'm pretty sure that they will understand that and we'll reach some sort of agreement. But that has to be done sooner than later because we're at our max point already down here, and it's early in the season. We're inundated with people already. And as I said, it's not a problem at 2:00 in the afternoon being hit, although it can be. But the real problem is 2:00 in the morning. That's when we're having all these problems. And later on, earlier in the evening after it gets dark, where we're getting into cars and pedestrian conflicts. We have to do something about that. We have to do something about that. Oh, I think that's enough on that subject.
Before you move on, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just have kind of one kind of summary to make, and I appreciate what Dan Allers is saying. You get in this thing, you want to buy a computer, but you know that a year from now, they're going to have something that's better. But the other thing is being an early adopter is expensive. And I do appreciate the effort that FP&L puts into not only testing the lights to make sure they can stand up to the environment that they're going to be in. The other is that they'll have an inventory. So if their storm goes through and knocks them out, that they have an inventory to replace them. Those are valuable things. I think the point that Vice Mayor Hassefrost made is a really good one, and probably the first place the engineers should go is to do a study of saying, let's put these plug-in lights on the poles that exist and see how many holes there are. So we get an idea whether this is a real expense or small expense, or whether it's something we're going to have to really talk to the people about before we go forward on it. I think that, you know, where we are right now with this, with the technology that's available, I think there seems to me there's a solution there that is within reach.
The study's been done. That's my point.
Yeah.
The study's already been done. The photometric studies, we know where the dark spots are. We know what it needs. We just need to refine that now with the stuff that's available.
All right, we're going to move on. Now we're starting to repeat ourselves. So we're going to move on. We kicked this to death here. So I think everybody has a pretty good idea of where we're heading with this.
It's an important topic.
It is important, no doubt about it. Okay, we'll move on. The next item is the consent agenda. There are two items there. One is the disposition of surplus items, and the other one is a renewal for janitorial supplies agreement. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Moved. Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries unanimously. Now we move on to the administrative agenda. The first item, A, is a request to initiate permitting for the Laguna Shores Channel Dredge. This is to allocate and appropriate $10,000 from the $18,000 budgeted from town council contingency funds and authorize the town manager to execute the documents. Is there a motion to approve this contract?
I have a question.
Okay.
Have we received any kind of assurance from the homeowners association that they are willing to participate at the percentage that they indicated they had in the past?
I have received word of that they've nominated a person to represent them. That person appeared before you at the last time we discussed this. My sense is that until we kind of know what it's going to cost, it's hard for them to commit us, the potential range of costs versus last time to what is currently projected as a worst case scenario this time. But only way we'll kind of know that number is to proceed with item A. That'll get us to a point where eventually we will have a bid, we will know the cost, and then they'll either be on board or not on board. The risk factor, if you want to call it that, is that we could say $10,000, we will spend $10,000 and perhaps they will not participate or say no, we won't be able to reach an agreement, and then we will have spent the $10,000. My belief is that they want to get this work done. They've approached us to get this work done.
Yes.
I'd be shocked if they weren't very supportive. I'm sure it'll be a hard negotiation over the split. And as you recall in reading the blue sheet, it's my recommendation that if the project proceeds and there is a split, that the $10,000 that we're laying out essentially today would be part of that split.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the permitting and design contract with Hans Wilson and Associates?
Moved.
Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Any objection? The motion carries unanimously. Next item is WCIND grant request. This is to authorize the town manager or his designee to submit a grant application to the West Coast Inland Navigational District for law enforcement grant requests for marine patrol and enforcement. Is there a motion to approve the town manager's request?
Move to approve.
Moved. Is there a second? I'll second it. Any further discussion?
I've got a question for Roger. Is this for additional patrols, more than we have now?
Hang on one second, please. Okay. There's a standard level of service that is determined by the sheriff. Whether he sent them here or to Sanibel or somewhere else, we don't control that. What this would do is above and beyond that, however he currently routes his Marine Patrol officers, this would buy us an officer specifically for our area.
Oh, is this something we do regularly, or is this?
I've done this last several years that I've been here.
I do hear quite a few complaints from constituents saying that there's a lot of things going on in the back bay.
That's not necessarily to say that their regular level of service plus this officer may be adequate in certain people's minds. It's just, at least we're doing what we can to augment the level of service, utilizing state funding.
Right, thanks, Roger.
Further discussion? Any objection to the motion? Motion carries unanimously. Next item is the community pool water slide replacement. This is to authorize the town manager to waive the procurement policy and execute an agreement with OK Playgrounds in the amount of $98,433 to replace the water slide at the Fort Myers Beach Community Pool. Allocate and appropriate funds necessary to purchase from capital budget. Is there a motion to approve this expenditure?
I'll move it.
Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Discussion?
I'll tell you, I understand the reason why they want to waive these procurement policies, but it does give me a little bit of heartbreak when I looked and saw that the AOK Playgrounds is not the low-cost provider that they went through and did a survey before. I'm a little uncomfortable setting a precedent to say that preferred vendor and we'll go with them without going through the usual procurement rules.
An explanation, Roger, for that?
In almost 4 years, I can't remember a case, but there may have been one where we recommended someone other than the low bidder. I normally do not do that. This is based on a strong recommendation from the department director. Feels this is the best solution to her problem. And she's convinced me that that's the appropriate decision for us to recommend to you. I don't know if Allison wants to add anything, but
Oh, I do. Allison Geeson,
Morning,
Director
Allison.
of Parks and Rec. Good morning. The slide for this is the one that is most like ours. So the other ones are 12 footers, not as long, not as big. This is the one that we could find that they would be able to do in our timetable that had great references. That would be similar because that slide is a really wonderful attraction to our people. So the ones that we had, they didn't have ones that would fit in our space. It's already a space that's fit. The staff looked to be able to go with the vendor, and they aren't the lowest, but they offer an 18-foot slide instead of a 12. So even though it's not the lowest bid, it's the slide that's most comparable to the one that we have now.
Okay, so you're saying that the low bid is really not equivalent.
It's not. We had a lot of trouble finding something that was the same amount of feet as the one that we have, because we definitely want it to be as wonderful as what we have now.
Okay, okay. Thanks, Allison.
Okay,
You're
thank you,
welcome.
Allison. I'll tell you that when the pool was opened, I was on that council at the time, and Planning Commission Chairman Ray Judah came down to help us with the dedication of the new pool, and yours truly was the first to go down that slide, fully clothed, mind you, and sans the shoes, of course, but and Ray Judah followed me right after that. So the slide has lasted over 20 some odd years. So I guess we got our money's worth out of the slide. And I agree, it is it's an attractor for the pool. It's a big thing that draws a lot of people. So although it may seem like a large expenditure, when you amortize it over all those years, it's probably a pretty small investment to make. Okay, any further discussion? Any objection to the motion? We're going to get a new slide. The motion carries unanimously. Okay, the next item is Resolution 21-05. This is a Mitchell and Stark change order number 1. Authorize the town managers to execute the final balancing change orders with Mitchell and Stark for Estero Boulevard Water Main RFQ-13-02-PW. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
Moved.
Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Moved, second. Any discussion? The objection? Motion carries unanimously. Item E, Resolution 21-06, Mitchell and Stark change order number 2. Authorize the town manager to execute the final balancing change order with Mitchell and Stark for Estero Boulevard Water Main RFQ-13-02-PW. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Moved? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any objection? The motion carries.
yes.
Sorry.
Yes, I just want to mention on the change order form itself, the number of days calculation was a typo, I assume, and the correct number is 1580. Not in the resolution, it's on the change order form itself.
So noted. Would the motion maker change his motion, please? Amend his motion to reflect that change? Is there a change in the motion? Is there not? Help me out here, somebody.
I don't remember who made the motion.
Jim did.
As amended.
Okay.
So moved as amended.
And the
Amend my
second,
second.
okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, item F, Resolution 21-07, Mitchell and Stark change order 1. Authorize the town manager to execute the final balancing change order with Mitchell and Stark for Estero Boulevard Water Main RFQ-13-02-PW. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Moved?
Second.
Moved, second. Discussion? Objection? Motion carries unanimously. Item G, Resolution -21-08, Mitchell and Stark change order One, authorize the town manager to execute the final balancing change order with Mitchell and Stark for Estero Boulevard Water Main RFQ-13-02-PW. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Moved. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any objection? The motion carries unanimously. Item H, Resolution 21-09, Phase 4 Joint Outfalls. Authorize the town manager to execute the final balancing change order with Mitchell and Stark for Phase 4 Joint Outfalls ITB-17-24-PW. Phase 4 Joint Outfalls with a decrease in contract amount of $674,992.72. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion?
Just mention something really quick.
I was going to say, it's wonderful to see something going down, decreasing.
They're all going down.
Okay, go ahead.
We had a savings of $7.1 million.
Say that again?
$7.1 million.
That was the savings, $7.1 million. Thank you very much.
Well, could you just give a little thumbnail sketch of why that is? I mean, that's great news, but just talk a little bit about it. Good.
Sure can. Let me just address this change order that's going around. It
Can you
was-
take your mask off just for a
It
second?
was removed from the actual packet, so I just wanted to make sure everybody had it that
Okay.
it's in there. So in each of the above mentioned resolutions and change orders, they're obviously the final balancing change orders. So after we're completed with the contract, then we go back and do the reconciliation to what was actually, what was used, what was not, what was done, what wasn't. And so we had a savings on each of them. D was a savings of 294,000. E was a savings of 848,000. F, 3 million. G, 2 million. And H, 674,000 for a total savings of 7.1 million. So that was just the overall savings from the initial contract amount to the final balancing change order.
Why does that occur generally?
It
Just for
can
the
occur
listening
based
audience.
on savings of products that we use. So if we want to use an example here. So let's say that we have a bend in where we have to put in a T and maybe a valve. We use less N's, less P's. It could be the number of services. It could be that someone changed the service from a 2-inch to a 1-inch. It can be, a lot of different things. So
Efficiencies that were found along the way that you would not normally have considered in the contract.
Council Adderhall,
That was a softball, by the way. You're supposed to hit that out of the park.
thank you. I think maybe the reason why it was just a ground double instead of a home run is because Christie, of course, is our lead person on this project, and she doesn't want to necessarily publicly, give the impression she's patting herself on the back. The other person who is largely responsible for these changes is Wcind, who retired in the end of September. The town making the decision to have its own construction manager in the field, and where Wcind was dealing with residential issues from trees. Can you avoid this? Can you get my tree, my bush, and those things? Making immediate decisions on going around utilities when necessary, making changes to the design with respect to eliminating unnecessary structures and things of that nature. So all of that collectively is what resulted in us being able to save a significant amount of money under what was originally estimated. And granted, with original estimates, there's always a safety factor put in by the engineers or whatever. But even within that consideration, the amount of savings you can see is significant.
Okay.
So the savings comes from saving paper by printing very, very small fonts.
That's part of it.
All good.
Okay.
Thank you, Christie.
Any further discussion on the
really a
motion?
team effort.
Any objection to the motion? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Christie, and thank you, Mitchell and Stark, everybody else involved. Okay, next one is resolution item I, 21-10, Angie Brewer and Associates, LC. Authorize the town manager to execute an agreement between the town of Fort Myers Beach and Angie Brewer and Associates, LC, piggybacking the Collier County agreement per the town procurement ordinance. Angie Brewer and Associates, LC will provide state loan funding and grant management services to include planning, application, administration, compliance, and program management services for the SRF program and any or other grant and/or loan funding sources. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll move to approve Resolution 21-10.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries unanimously. Item J, Resolution 21-11, North Estero Phase 2, Part 2, SRF Loan Agreement. Authorize the town manager to execute loan agreement between SRF and the town of Fort Myers Beach. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll move to
Go ahead.
I'll move to approve Resolution 21-11.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any objection? The motion carries unanimously.
I'm glad you're here to sign this one, Mr. Murphy. The last time I got to sign the big loan papers.
You're still on the hook. Okay. Item K, Resolution 21-12, North Estero Phase 2, Part 2, change order. Authorize the town manager to execute change order 1 for Phase 2, Part 2, water SW technical services during construction, increasing the cost amount by $42,144 on proposal 240-000-0111 with Angie Brewer and Associates, LC. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
Move to approve resolution 21-12.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Any objection? The motion carries unanimously. Item L, Resolution 21-13, Phase 2, Part 1, Water-SW Technical Services. Authorize the town manager to execute an agreement for Phase 2, Part 2, Phase 2, Part 1, Water SW Technical Services during construction in the amount of $126,423.72 on proposal 240-000-0113 with Angie Brewer and Associates, LC. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
Moved.
For second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion carries unanimously. Item M, RFP -21-03-PW Lighting Consultant. Approved contract with Red Inc., DBA Town Lighting Engineers for the design, bid, build process in response to RFP -21-03-PW Lighting Consultant up to the amount of $185,000. Allocate and appropriate funds from reserves and authorize the town manager to execute the contract documents with town council's consideration. Is there a motion to approve the contract with Red Inc.?
Moved.
Been moved. Is there a second? Seconded. Discussion. Any objection to the motion?
Could we just have a brief read through the information that's in the packet? And I just wondered if Roger wanted to elaborate a little bit on the thing that's maybe not in the packet.
Well, the reason this is sort of an up-to contract, because this provides a flexibility for town to pursue options exclusively with FP&L, exclusively with a private system and a joint system. So as the consultant evaluates needs of the community, they can recommend to you whether or not, in their opinion, FP&L can meet those needs. If FP&L can't meet those needs, can it be met with a partial FP&L part private system or augmented system, or meet all the needs as stated by the community and this town council? Would it require a private system? Then proceed through to actually bid and build that system if the council wishes to move in that direction, I assume, with the consent of Lee County.
Just to follow up, just, and maybe Chelsea could add to this, just for those who might be listening, just a little bit of background about the firm that's being selected.
Sure. Chelsea can.
Morning, Chelsea Riley, Public Works Director. So this went out to bid. We had a selection advisory committee that comprised of a representative from the Public Safety Committee, Marine Resources Task Force, myself, and Chad, for our environmental guy on staff here. We shortlisted it, and this, it was a tight selection advisory committee. 4 votes, I think, we won to move forward with town lighting. As a committee, we felt that they, although they were, out of state, some experience with Florida and best suited for our town's needs. So I believe they have on staff a representative that used to work for FP&L. So they have that insight as well as doing other comparable projects we have here.
Chelsea, the contested nature of this process within the internal deliberations was not, I want to put words in your mouth, but it was a result of the fact that you had a plethora of qualified choices, or was it because you didn't have enough qualified choices?
We had 4 responsive bidders. We shortlisted it to 2 and asked for their presentations and further discussions, and town lighting just hit it out of the park for us.
Good, thank you.
Councilman Allen, just so you are, I'm familiar with the firm that came in second place, and I know that I would have had no hesitancy to use them either. It just so happened that the selection committee was impressed with the information from town lighting.
So, the criticism that's sure to come from certain quarters. Oh, there goes the town council again, and hiring another lighting consultant for this road out here, up to $185,000. Your response is?
Well, I think that this is a complicated issue, and particularly, to the extent that we may be looking to a funding partner, and we need, we're going to need some help convincing them from a technical standpoint why they should participate, as well as meeting with the stakeholders locally to understand the breadth and scope of the problem, meeting with the 2 committees, meeting with town council. And the fact of the matter is that we don't have an engineer on staff. Last time we sort of started walking down this path, we didn't have someone who could do everything, and we thought that, the council wanted to go from looking at options all the way to construction and implementing a system. We wanted a consultant who could take us the entire way, so we would have vertical responsibility for the project, standpoint of an initial, stakeholder feedback all the way to construction and installation if we go that far. And importantly, to help our partners, and we may have 1 or more in this project, to understand what we're trying to accomplish, how we're trying to accomplish it, and hopefully a fair distribution of costs with respect to implementing it.
If I could supplement what Roger said, since I've been here throughout this process. The first study was paid for by the MPO. We didn't pay for it. The parameters that were put on that study were entirely wrong, so it was completely useless to us. We didn't pay for it. People that have been here to present since then were presenters. We never hired any of them to produce a study. This is literally the first time we're actually hiring someone to do the study for us. So if anybody said, there you go again, we aren't. This is actually the first time we've actually accomplished this.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, for that historical perspective. That's very helpful. Okay, I'll call the question on the motion. Any objection to the motion? Motion carries unanimously. Next item is final public comment. Anybody, Madam Clerk? Hearing none, we'll move on. Town manager's items.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I want to assure you that the gentleman who spoke about some of the issues he was having with the building services provided by the town. I will contact him and reach out to him and set up a meeting with all the appropriate staff members.
Thank you.
Make sure that his issues get addressed. I want to be sure about you're aware of that. Secondarily, I think most of you know that we have begun to initiate the process to do beach restoration. I want to tell you that I would like to proceed with expanding the scope of the beach renourishment project to include the central and south beach segments that have been designated as critically eroded by FDEP. We would request $50,000 from the TDC grant funds to allow for the concurrent design and permitting of the extension area. So I guess there's two things. One is that if I can get a nod of heads, we can start working on it and bring back the item for consent at your next meeting. Or we can just handle it in total at your next meeting. But if you're all comfortable, we can get started and, maybe
Proceed to
save
that.
off 2 weeks or so.
Started.
A clarification. So what we're asking that we're going to renourish all these areas in the next time we're doing, or is this just to apply for the permits for the entire area?
So, as you know, that in all probability, it's not going to be a one and done project. So the idea would be to, as we do each segment, to finish segment 1 on Friday and start segment 2 on Monday, so we don't have to remobilize, which is a significant part of the costs. We would always try to time it that way. Availability of actual funding of the project comes from the state, and the local match comes from the TDC. So we will go as fast as the funding allocation follows. I think the TDC is being very judicious about, their spending in light of the COVID-19 impacts and the recovery from that. But we suspect that hopefully as the vaccines get rolled out, things will normalize and the flow of funding will improve and allow us to move more expeditiously. But we're just getting queued up. So if the funding's there, we can move with the funding availability.
So we have the severely eroded north part of the island, and we have severely eroded southern part in the critical wildlife area. The rest of it is not as bad. So I'm just wondering how this is all going to.
So we're exclusively dealing with the areas that have been designated by the FDEP that are severely eroded, critically eroded.
Just, I think, according to Chad's chart, is almost the entire island.
I understand, within the context of, as we move forward, if the council wants to say, area C instead of area B, we'll deal with that when we get there. Our goal is to get everything queued up.
Okay, so it'll still come back to council regardless.
Yes.
Anything else, sir?
Just check my notes quick. We do want to mention that council will be having a discussion on town attorney's items, I suspect, about the emergency declarations. And when we get there, just bear in mind that, sort of May 1st would be the time frame to determine whether we're going to try to do 4th of July celebration or not this year. So did want to mention that to you. I believe that covers my notes.
Thank you very much. Town Attorney, we'll go right into you. Before we get on to these 2 items here, can you just answer quickly the question for Mr. Prasad that he brought up earlier?
Yes, sir. I appreciate Mayor and members of council. I brought up the Second District Court of Appeal docket, and only in the last 3 days, actually last Wednesday, keeping in mind that yesterday was a federal holiday, that the court issued its mandate, which is the court order saying that appeal is over. So in accordance with that mandate and subject to confirmation today with between myself and our outside counsel, then we will work with staff to make sure that Mr. Prasad's alcoholic beverage license paperwork is properly approved by the town so he can move forward with that in accordance with the court order.
So just for his edification, time frame, are we looking at a day, 2 days, or a day?
I can't speak to staff, what their turnaround time is. I can tell you that before the end of today, the legal will have an answer telling them, yes, go ahead and process it.
Okay.
And I would suspect, Mr. Mayor, that would take us, one full business day once we get that green light.
Okay, well, then he has an idea then. That's all I was looking for. All right, good. Yes, sir. Go right ahead, sir.
Just answer all the questions that he had. I mean, that are go around the suit.
The only issue that the court addressed in its order is the right of Mr. Prasad to proceed with the sale of alcohol. And that's what we will deal with. To the extent that Mr. Prasad mentioned a number of different issues or other issues, the vast majority of those are completely unrelated to the litigation. The litigation was very narrow, very specific, and only to the issue of his right to sell alcohol at his location. The other issues are not within the jurisdiction of that litigation and would have to be dealt with and resolved on a case-by-case basis. The issue of him mentioning, I guess, tomorrow there's a special magistrate that's will be considering the imposition of lien. If the violation if he has complied the violation, after the special magistrate certifies the amount of the lien, he can then file an application and appear before you all in accordance with the requirements of the code to request a reduction in that lien. That's the process. All aware of it.
Just to add to that, Mr. Prasad has several code enforcement actions pending with the town. Those are working their way through the standard process set by the council via ordinance to be resolved. So the way it works is the magistrate sets a deadline for compliance. The code case comes before them. They set a fine for if you exceed that deadline. And if that fine is unpaid, the town can appear before the magistrate and request authorization to place a lien or that fine gets paid. The property owner can, once they've established compliance, has a right to appeal the fine before town council, and council can consider a reduction. So that's a process that's applicable to everybody, and it's set forth in your ordinances.
One last comment or response to a comment made by Mr. Prasad. He indicated or suggested that he has been in contact with me on a regular basis regarding trying to resolve this issue. And I would advise you all that I very carefully adhere to the mandates of the Florida Bar rules of professional conduct that specify that I am prohibited from contacting an individual who is represented by counsel. So all my communications with regard to this pending litigation have either been through Mr. Jeff Hockman, who's the attorney that's representing us on behalf of the League of Cities as our outside counsel, or direct communications with Mr. Prasad's most recent attorney, because he switched attorneys in the middle of this case. And the last time I spoke with his attorney regarding this matter was actually on January 21st of last month, and haven't heard from him since. I do believe that he has been communicating with Mr. Hockman, who is the attorney who he should be communicating with. And again, I want to emphasize it would be inappropriate and a violation of the Florida Bar rules for me to have direct contact with Mr. Prasad regarding any matter pertaining to this litigation, and I observe that rule very carefully. Unless you all direct me differently and his attorney consents.
Tom?
Yes, sir.
Just to be clear, I think what Mr. Prasad was alluding to is the fact that he sends an email and he copies numerous people on it. And so he's saying, well, I discussed X, Y, or Z with you. Discussing anything, that's one-sided communication by him.
Okay,
Moving on to other items, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as the manager indicated at a prior council meeting, you all requested a review of all the pending emergency declarations that the town council has issued in light of the governor's opening of the state pursuant to executive order. I have prepared for your consideration to any amendments that you all may direct, propose a declaration of emergency regulation number 8, which formally repeals all prior emergency declarations of the town council, except for to discussion the latest, which is emergency declaration number 7, that pertains exclusively to the issue of face coverings and social distancing as recommended by the CDC. That really is the only issue that technically would remain out there. I in my transmittal email to you all and staff, I did indicate that there are a couple of items that potentially you all could include in this emergency declaration. And the one that immediately comes to mind, and the manager touched upon it on, is the prohibition on special events. Whether or not you want to continue to have that, that's not been preempted by the governor in any way, shape, or form. All the other contents of the emergency declarations, I think, are covered by his reopening, but facial coverings, social distancing, mandatory mask when using transportation, which actually is a federal requirement, and any kind of local issue hasn't been preempted. What the governor has ordered is that local governments can't place restrictions on businesses opening, and to the extent that or any type of limitation on the number of people who might occupy a particular business, unless certain minimum standards are met, which is that there has to be an economic analysis and that it's appropriate to place that kind of restriction on the particular business or business use that the local government may want to limit. But my conversations or listening to you all, as I understand it, the real issue or the discussion is whether or not we leave in place emergency declaration number 7 by incorporating it into number 8.
okay. Well, let's see if we can all agree on just a general, for housekeeping purposes, just to clean up all the outstanding emergency declarations. And we'll talk about the two in question here, the masks, special events.
For clarification, John, where this says is repealed, these are things that have already essentially been preempted or repealed by the governor.
Preempted, correct, and it's just to some degree housekeeping, except for the issue of
For number
the
7.
special events and the facial coverings.
Oh, special events, so is it mentioned specifically in this declaration? Because I know that the public gatherings of 10 or less is something that number 1 was repealed.
Correct. So it's a question of whether or not you want to put it back in. So we would put in number 8, a town still prohibiting special special events. I would also mention, though we're already not doing so, theoretically, you could also prohibit the use of town facilities, the closure of town facilities, things of that nature, but we've already moved away from that from a practical standpoint. So I just want to mention that those are the types of things that aren't preempted by the governor.
And if I may add, we have some things that are sort of we turn them in the larger category of special events, but I don't know that they're really public special events. Some cases they are, some cases. The example I always use, a wedding of 10 people, family members at a beach access. Typically, that's a special event, but I don't know in terms of how you view this issue, whether you really consider that a special event. Another example would be, we've been contacted by the Lions that they wanted to set up a table like this with a little tent on it in Times Square and solicit donations, since there won't be a shrimp festival this year. Do you consider that a special event? Technically, it would be under our process.
Okay. The question is, for us, is to, do we eliminate all the prior declarations, and then do we care to continue on with declarations 7 and 8? I'll make a motion that we clean up all of the, if this is proper, you can rephrase it any way you like, but if we just eliminate all of the prior emergency declarations that have been superseded by the governor in the state of Florida, and that we retain our local ordinance requiring face coverings in all places where socially distancing can't be achieved, including all restaurants, stores, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And also whatever the special events is in that ordinance, leaving it up to the discretion of the manager. Second.
Just a question, Mr. Mayor.
No,
Sorry.
no, go ahead.
The question was, are you, your motion include number 8 then, the find?
Is that fine for the masks, for not having the masks? Well, I mean,
I'm just asking. It's more
I don't see
information.
why not. I mean, according to our advice from the town attorney is that the governor waived anything that was incurred prior to his declaration, but not anything subsequent to it, which means to me that we can still enforce a fine if need be. And why not put the teeth in there in case something has to be done? Otherwise, it's a joke. So I'd say leave it in there in the event that, and hopefully we won't have to, but in the event that we do, there is something there.
I think the fine was already in emergency declaration number 7, so I don't know why we're repeating it, because I think the idea is to simplify. So again, the idea being to simplify, I would think that we should adopt this and leave the words "still in effect" in place there, and delete number 8 because fine is already included in emergency declaration number 7. The idea was to clean it up, not to make it more complicated.
That is fine. I would, however, even though it's also in 7, I would still leave in 9. We'll renumber the severability provision to the question or the issue raised by Councilmember Adderholt. The governor's order says specifically, this order consistent with executive order, the most recent one. This order, consistent with Executive Order 20-92, suspends collection of fines and penalties associated with COVID-19 enforced upon individuals. It doesn't prohibit the imposition of them. It prohibits the collection. Semantics, yes, but it arguably, without further clarification or a specific declaration saying that all prior fines are waived and null in effect or something to that effect. I read the governor's order to allow for it. We just can't collect. Whether or not he on that issue, we don't know.
So you mean if we find today, not collect
until the governor clarifies this? That's correct.
I guess I had a couple of other things to say. Number one, I wasn't happy that we got this yesterday. We asked for it quite a while ago. It wasn't anything that was difficult to create. And this does seem to be a pattern that we have, that we ask for something and get it the day before. Everybody else who works for the town is expected to get things in time for them to make the notebook. I'd just like to make that comment for the record because I'm finding it's a pattern. I'm glad to see Roger coming back in because the other comment I had relates to something he said. You indicated, Roger, that a family of 10 at a beach access would be a special event. And we rewrote the definition of special event recently in our
Yeah, I'm
ordinance,
just saying,
and I
yeah.
don't think it would cover that.
Yeah, I was just saying by way of example, we were granting them prior to that definition change. So we have these little things that occur that are small things. I don't know if they still have something come in that's still applicable under the new special event ordinance that might require a permit or not, but so I mentioned from the reason of outright ban versus some discretion.
Okay. Further, what I wanted to say about special events was that it wasn't in our prior declaration. I would like not to include it. Our instruction to the town manager was that he was to treat them on a case-by-case basis, and if there's a question, he brings them to council. I think that's the policy we should continue with.
Fine with that.
Any additional guidance or just?
If he doesn't feel comfortable granting it and the people want to bring it to us, they can ask him to do that and he would place it on our agenda.
We get a lot more. That's okay.
Are you comfortable with that, Roger, having that level of discretion, or would you prefer some guidance?
That's what he's had.
I don't know that's really been changed. The issue is that, I will tell you, I'm sort of more on the conservative side in terms of taking risk. So, I guess that's my background in public health. But that being the case, I always tell people on anything we deny, that's pretty much on any permit application or any item we do in this town, the way your code of ordinances are pretty much set up is that anything could be appealed to town council. Staff does not have the final say unless the person does not avail themselves of that appeal. So it's very, unless John could think of a case, I pretty much can't think of almost any case where there's something that we deny could not be appealed to town council.
The existing regulations, new ones, as well as the old ones, bifurcate the special event application process into two. One that's done administratively by staff, and if it meets certain benchmarks, it automatically comes to the council. That process would stay the same. If it's administrative and the manager determines or makes a decision, or staff makes a decision to deny it, then yes, they can come to the town council and ask the town council for review and approval.
The problem, Counselor, just to really say is, unfortunately, in many, many cases, you get them so late that because our fee for a late special event permit is so low that they, in some cases, eliminate their ability to come before town council and then ask for that duration because their event has already passed last weekend.
Right.
Considering the circumstances, everybody should be well aware that this is not normal. Life is not normal right now. If you're going to plan something and it might be an issue, you need to get it in early so that there would be time for it to come before town council in case
Right.
there's a.
Vice Mayor's point, the code says 30 days, or, that's sort of, and then after that, you can apply after that and pay a fee for being late, but that may, as I said, due to calendars and agendas, may create a scenario where someone would not have enough time to appear before town council.
Okay, with that all being said, I will revise my original motion. We're just going to leave the special events the way they were. We're not going to.
That would be my recommendation.
Okay, that's fine with me too. We can just leave that. So really now, so we eliminate that, and really now we're looking at which is declaration number
Number
7.
seven is still in
with the- with the-
effect. It
with the-
will, paragraph 7 will read that an emergency declaration number 7 is still in effect. Number 8, the substance of it is deleted, and severability number 9 moves up to number 8.
Was my motion seconded? Is there a second to my motion?
Second your amended motion.
Thank you. Further discussion?
I'd just like to put it on the record that I don't feel that we're in the need of having this declaration. I think following the governor's and the state and county's lead and with the vaccines that we have and education that's out there, I think the continue to educate but not eliminate is strategy seems to be working fairly well. I don't see that there's a need to have this emergency declaration, so I would be opposed to it.
That your point is taken. I will tell you the other side of that from my perspective. With all due respect. Although the number of cases are going down right now in nationally, that's due to lots of things. The vaccines are going up and so forth, the vaccinations. Primarily, if you ask the professionals why it's coming down, it's because people are adhering to the face mask wearing policies. That's why it's coming down, because people are distancing themselves and they're also wearing the face coverings. We're in a unique situation down here in the state of Florida in that we have all of these so-called variants that are popping up, and the UK variant that's out there, we have more cases of it in the state of Florida than anywhere in the country. The professionals now are concerned about, although we're decreasing our cases, when they say decreasing, they're falling, but they were up here, so they're falling halfway. There's still lots and lots of cases. The concern with the professionals is now with the variants that are out there, that if we're exposed to those variants, that it will shoot back up rapidly. So that is my concern. We're not out of the woods yet, and the fact that we've come this far, we should continue on the path that we're on to ensure that we don't reverse this. And I mean, everybody's doing great down here, everything's wide open and so forth, but I cringe every time I go down and look around. I mean, people are everywhere on top of each other, and I just pray to God that they're not getting sick. But anyhow, that's my reason for continuing to endorse the mask covering proposition. Any further comments?
Well, since we're getting into just a bit of a broader conversation, Mr. Mayor, I just would say, I know the council has a philosophical difference, which I respect in terms of approach. I think it's important to say, though, that I do support the CDC guidelines, that I'm not, I'm someone who advocates, wearing a mask. I think one of the things that gives me pause is that we're imposing a fine, and we're also told we have an inability to collect that fine. It seems to me those are contradictory. That gives me pause, and so therefore I will be voting no. Respectfully.
I will tell you that I can't speak for the manager. I can only speak for myself, but it would have to be the worst of the worst conditions for something like that. We don't want to levy fines against people. That's not the intention here. We want people to wear masks. That's what we want. So it would only be the worst of the worst, if there was an imposition of a fine, because to date there have been none levied. But just the thought of having that levy against you might bring pause to some people. I can only speculate on that.
It's a fair point.
But,
I would also point out, I understand the numbers are going down. I also understand that the numbers are going down in March. And we had a much bigger peak in July. And the numbers went down from the bigger peak in July, and we had a much bigger peak in January. Right now, I read about this a lot, and like the mayor said, we have an English variant, which is like 70% more infectious. We have a South African variant, which is resistant to one of the vaccines. And we have a Brazilian variant, which is resistant to people who have natural antibodies from having had it. The longer we let it sit around, the longer we let it simmer at this level, especially when people are starting to get vaccines, that the more likely we are to have more variants and have those variants be more virulent. So I think that, really the point we need to get to is not people vaccinated. We need to get the numbers down so low where the virus just cannot not continue. That's the point you get to. That's when it goes away. It doesn't go away when the number's down to half what the peak was. The numbers go away when it's down so low that it just can't propagate from person to person. We're not anywhere close to that now.
Any further comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
perhaps totally unrelated to what you're talking about, but maybe a distant cousin. Yes. One of the things, and you see all the emails that come from the League of Cities or whatever. There is a dividing line between what state does and what local municipalities should do. We should be careful about unfunded mandates and how they affect local policy. Example, rentals or can you have any business in any residential area unfeathered? And so there is that aspect of things we want to work collaboratively with everybody, but we also need to do what's best for the residents of the town of Fort Myers Beach.
Thank you very much. One other reason for the masks, I've had several people, business owners, come to me and say, listen, we want this mask ordinance in effect because when people come to our establishments and they want to come in and they say, we don't have to wear a mask, we want to be able to tell them that, yes, you do. Of course, I tell those business owners, you already have that right as the owner of your business. You can deny access to anybody you want. But if you want that sign in the window that says it's the town of Fort Myers Beach that's making you wear that sign, you can point to the sign and say, it's not me, it's them. And I'll take that heat all day long. I will take that. And these are people that are concerned about their employees. They're not going to be able to stay open if their employees get sick. They want their employees to stay healthy. And I can appreciate that. So that's the other reason that causes me sleepless afternoons, not nights. But anyhow, okay, the motion is on the floor. I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nay? Any nays? Nay. Motion carries 3-2 with Councilmen Allers and Adderholt dissenting. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is John, beach access.
Yes,
bathroom.
thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. At a prior meeting, you all asked for staff to prepare a resolution reflecting your statements that you did not want to, as a policy, to allow restroom facilities that any beach access points without the authorization, unless it was pre-existing or without the authorization, the approval of the adjacent property owners. And that's what the proposed resolution does. If it's acceptable to the council, you make a motion to approve the resolution after reading the title. If you want to edit it, we'll edit it and then approve it. But I hopefully it reflects what I believe.
This does not say what I thought we were going to indicate that it would say, and my suggestion would be that after the words public beach access points, we have in residential neighborhoods. This has always been about residential neighborhoods. I don't think that we should have to get the authority of adjacent property owners when they're businesses. We're helping them out by having a bathroom there so that people aren't going into their businesses, aren't helping them out or not buying from them. So
How do you define residential neighborhood?
we have zoning maps that define where our residential neighborhoods are.
Like if they're RC or RS or those?
Yes.
And it's defined in the comp plan.
Yes, it's defined several places in our codes. So I would just suggest after the word points, add in residential neighborhoods.
Okay, well, for right now, I will add that in and I'll read the resolution. Resolution number 21-14, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Fort Myers Beach, Florida, adopting a policy opposing the construction or placement of public bathroom facilities at public beach access points in residential neighborhoods, excluding replacement bathroom facilities without the consent of the adjacent property owners, and providing an effective date. Is there a motion to approve the resolution? I'll make a motion to approve the resolution. Is there a second?
Second it.
Been moved and seconded. That sounds like for discussion. Discussion.
Just a question to the Vice Mayor. I like your suggestion. Should we then take out without the consent of the adjacent property owners then with your suggestion if we're trying to accomplish what I think we're trying to accomplish?
No, I think that needs to be there because there might be a residential neighborhood where the residential property owners would give consent and then would want one there. So I wouldn't want to take that away from them.
Unlikely, but possible. You never know.
I'm trying to get my head around that, but I think you're right, but I'm trying to get my head around that. So give me a real life example of that.
It could be well, no, that's not in a residential neighborhood.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
It could be that there are neighbors that are having problems with people who are going to the bathroom in their front yard, for example, or their backyard, and say, I'd rather have a public beach bathroom here. Would you please go to the TDC and apply for the funds? Our neighbors all agree we want it.
In that scenario, you wouldn't be able to have one because it's in a residential neighborhood, correct?
No, this says without the consent. So if they're giving their consent,
But I guess my question would be then, if that adjacent property owner gives their consent, but the rest of the neighborhood is against it, we run into problems there?
the way I look at it is it's adjacent property owners. Adjacent has a legal meaning.
I guess that's a question then. Is that adjacent literal or is it the neighborhood surrounding?
No, the intent is, as I understand it, based upon the comments, it's the immediately adjacent. And that the mayor, the vice mayor is correct. That has a significant meaning. It's not the adjacent neighborhood where it's a show of hands. 90 of you all say yes and only 20 of you say no. It's just the adjacent property owners, one side and the other.
You could have a scenario where the adjacent property owner says yes, but the rest of the neighborhood opposes it, and then therefore they would have a right.
Well, if
Let me ask, these are
you-
just
you would-
questions,
You would have the ability to consider it,
As a council, we'd have to,
council.
it would still have to come before the council.
of course.
Okay, I'm just trying to
Yeah,
understand. Yeah,
You,
I'm not
you all would,
arguing, I'm just trying to understand.
it's your purse strings that you all certainly would have to approve the expenditure of the monies before the project proceeded.
Leading me to my question, since we're in the case-by-case model that we've talked about, what is the need for the resolution?
They'll ask for it.
I understand, if we're doing it
I-
case by case,
I-
is there a need for a
I-
resolution?
I agreed with Bill when Bill asked that we present a resolution because I was trying to reach a compromise with him about the TDC funding. So I tried to go halfway and say, yes, I would consider a resolution. So this is part of a compromise I feel that we reached.
And adjacent property owners are the ones that are most effective at putting these restrooms.
Exactly.
You're putting it, bathroom right next to someone's.
Further? Any further? No. Okay. Well, I'll call the question then. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Now, was this as with the edit suggested by Vice Mayor Hasafras?
Read it.
Yes, I read it in.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Any objection to the motion? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Anything further?
No, sir?
Okay. Okay, we'll just go to council members' items. Councilman Beach, we'll start with you.
Got nothing.
Councilman Adderhold.
I wish I could be so good. Amy's kind enough to hand out the most recent edition of this. Gone through a litany of edits over the last few days as we're trying to handle or respond to the fact that there's not a council meeting until another council meeting until March 1st. So I apologize. This isn't formally on the agenda. This is the suggested, and I'll give everybody a couple minutes to look at this. I don't think anybody who's watching can see, but this is a larger shot. It's a proposed mail piece for to enhance the fight for clean water. And the front of it is a picture of Uncle Sam. It has our pier in the background with our logo and our website. And the town of Fort Myers Beach wants you, very similar to the Uncle Sam World War II shots, recruiting shots, enlist in the fight for clean water now. Back of it has a description as to how you can do that and who to contact. We tried to make it completely nonpartisan. We tried to make it general enough where we could not confuse folks, although I'm sure it's a very complicated issue. I spent some time with Jackie Lisak, who's doing a lot of advocacy work in Tallahassee on behalf of the chamber, but she also liaisons with all the clean water activist groups in our area. We worked on the language and we continued to pound this out because there is no right or wrong to this. It's somewhat subjective, but I spent some time working in a congressional office and I used to serve in the legislature. So I have a little bit of background of how to approach this, but at the same time, the objective, of course, is to, when the state legislature goes into session in March, there's quite a bit there's quite a struggle afoot in terms of proper funding for Everglades restoration and clean water initiatives at the state. The Senate president has already come out against one of the key reservoirs that will potentially provide relief for our area. So I think we need to get I call it the Floridian reserves together and have them contact their various state senators, their state reps, and the governor throughout the state of Florida, because we're blessed with a lot of people who visit from around the state. And we also want the snowbirds to come forth and join the Snowbird Advocacy Army, which will then encourage them to write their member of Congress and their 2 U.S. senators to support Everglades restoration efforts at the national level. So you'll have a situation where you'll have a state or a U.S. senator from the state of Ohio could get 25, 30, 40 letters on behalf of Everglades restoration from his own constituents who happen to be visiting down here in Florida and Fort Myers Beach at the time. This mail piece we have, the sample mail piece that we have, will go out twice over the next few weeks, preferably kind of around 1st of March. We'll also juxtapose that with newspaper ads and all the local newspapers that will come out at the same time as the mail piece hits to reinforce our message. Again, the town public information officer has been wonderful to work with, and we're putting together a sample draft that I've just submitted to my colleagues. In terms of content, I'm filibustering here, so they have some time to read it. But this is something.
Don't worry about that.
This is something we've talked about for quite a while, and just wanted to. Again, I'm sorry to just dump this on you today, but we're in somewhat of a time crunch given the fact that our next meeting's not for some time. So, if there's any questions or concerns, I welcome them. And
I have one question.
yes, sir.
Uncle Sam has a glass in his hand, and if I was a gambling man, I'd say that's red wine, but it doesn't look like a red wine glass. What did you and Jackie think that was?
That's a strawberry flavored drink. That's
Oh,
non-alcoholic.
a non-alcoholic. Good.
Yes,
I'm glad you.
We've done some research on that we could say that with certainty.
Okay, very good.
And this
Okay.
is a great job. I love it. Thank you for all your hard work.
That's
It's
good.
a great idea.
Thanks to Jenny and Roger and to Amy and everybody in the town for their help too. We're still in the process, and just so you know, the ad will mirror this almost in its entirety. It'll probably be laid out a little bit differently. And hopefully the objective is not only to reach all the folks that we've just discussed, but we're hoping that maybe some surrounding communities will copy us, which we would welcome, as that's sort of the best form of flattery. But if we get some of the larger communities like Cape Coral or Fort Myers or Naples to do something similar, imagine all the folks that they could reach as well through their constituency. So
Maybe you could add each town hall within the 2 or 3 county area. Add them to the mailing list and at least get the town hall, city hall, a copy of this, and maybe
I like that.
maybe they'd move on from there
And
themselves.
hopefully they'll be seeing it in the newspapers that will affect their areas, because this will be in the news press as well as all of our local papers. So that
Very
should
good.
touch those
Very
folks as well.
Very good.
And the red tide's out there now. I know the readings on the site doesn't show a lot of readings, but birds tell a different story.
Councilor Veach, you're very well said. And the front page of the news press today, top of the fold, red tide of 2018 still being felt. And so,
And of course, they just announced that there's going to be further releases from the lake. So it'll only be further complicated. Okay, anything else, Councilman?
I have one other thing,
Yep.
unrelated. There was I don't know if my colleagues had a chance to see the riveting LPA meeting this past week. It was lengthy in nature, but important, and they did a great job. But near the end of that LPA meeting, there was a colloquy between the chair of the LPA and Daphne from the town staff about sort of the new philosophy over the last year of complaint-driven enforcement policy. This has occurred over the last year, and then she, to her credit, referenced that there was an exception to that, where the town is still aggressively going after folks who are working without a permit, and they're doing that for public safety reasons. I thought, I don't know if anyone has seen that, but I thought it was excellent, and I was hoping that maybe my colleagues would agree to having that colloquy again at an M&P meeting, have Daphne, Jason, John, Roger in attendance, maybe the head of code enforcement, have this discussion again, have the PIO there. This would be sort of where this would be changed a little bit, and have this discussion about philosophy, but also what code enforcement is seeing, where are they issuing fines, and then use that as an opportunity to educate our residents with the help of the PIO officer to give folks some information about compliance in advance, to help educate our folks, hopefully get that in the local media so we can preemptively educate our residents so they don't have to come face to face with code enforcement or hear from their neighbors. And there seems to we have a lot of turnover, a lot of new people on the island. And the more we can educate folks how to avoid ever coming crossways with the town, I think would be really positive. So I was just wondering if people would be comfortable having that kind of a colloquy at an M&P meeting in the future, and having those discussions, and then allowing the PIO officer to sort of take the fruit of those conversations and then put those out so the public could get more educated.
Okay, thank you very much.
Everybody okay with that?
I have no problem with putting that on an MMP. Jim, I think that's a great idea.
Thank you. That's all I have.
And I promise to incorporate the word colloquy more in my talking from here on out. Vice Mayor.
Nothing today.
Just a couple of quick things. I don't know if. What's that?
Councilman Allers, I didn't say.
I don't know if my fellow colleagues have had a chance to go to the north end of the island to take a look at the bike markings that they've put out there, green bike markings.
Yes.
Where are those?
What's that?
Could you be more specific?
They're, so Roger, maybe help me with the cross street. I can't remember the name of the cross street.
I can't remember it either.
It's,
I'll find out
If you
for you.
drive
Keep
Estero
talking.
You can't
Boulevard
miss
to the
it.
north, you can't miss it. It's bright green.
yeah, you can't miss it.
In relation to where the arches are going to be.
Halfway.
Okay.
Halfway between the two options. They did two markings, and they also did a crosswalk. I'm not a huge, what's that? Carlos Circle, that's it. Carlos Circle. They did a green one on each side, and then they also did the crosswalk in a red. I'm not sure that I'm sold on the red, but the green really sticks out. I just wanted to bring it up to see if it would be the will of the council to maybe bring forth on the MMP meeting coming up a discussion about perhaps expanding that to at least the north end of Estero, and potentially working with the people at Lee County to expand it down the island entirely.
I'm certainly in favor of that. Is the pilot project that's occurring now, did the county do that, or did the town do that, or did we do it in partnership with them?
We had put in, we receive solicitations from various vendors, probably to the tune of 25 a day. So every once in a while, our response will be, well, if you're willing to, give us a demonstration, we'll consider it. So in this case, that's what happened. We would like an opportunity for it to burn in a little bit to see how well it wears, et cetera. And again, the colors and things can be adjusted, but it's just a way to begin to address some of the concerns that have been raised by our Public Safety Committee and by the council in terms of bicycle safety, pedestrian safety.
I think it's
But
great.
we suggest you take a look at it. We'll evaluate the sort of burn-in to see how well it holds up. And
I think it's a great.
then we can
idea.
have a discussion about where and how it, or if it should be expanded.
I guess my question was, is that something we can do as a town, or does the county have to do that because it's on Estero? How does that work?
Typically, county has said that if we release them from liability, and obtain a permit from them, they'll let us do what they consider an upgrade at our own expense. So that's typically how that would work. Whether they would consider this, clearly we could find out after a week, have enough experience with it where we could recommend it. I will mention ancillary to this, we're looking at putting up on the existing poles where the bike lane disappears and the bicycle traffic can converge onto the sidewalk, to put up a little sign placard that shows the pedestrians on the right and the bicyclists on the left, facing in each direction. We're already working on that. Response to the Public Safety Committee and some of your comments. But whether or not, we would go that far and who would pay for it, that's a discussion I have down the road.
Anything else, Councilman Ellers?
He covered the second part of that, the signs. I was gonna bring that up. He and I had discussed that. I thought it was a great idea. The only other thing I wanted to talk about is to get it out there to the public that, although we're moved forward, that the signs are gonna go back up in the no wake zone on the south end of the island. All the boaters on the island, the visitors that come down, I just wanted to get it out there that it's very important that you slow down there. The signs aren't there now, but over the last month, we've had a couple of near death experiences. A gentleman was actually knocked off a floating dock back there between the dock and a very large boat. Could have been very easily killed because there's no signs up yet. And, they go back there pretty fast. As Mayor, I'm sure can attest to, you're back there boating quite a bit. You can see the difference in the amount of boats that are out there since COVID has come. Everybody out there seems to think that owning a jet ski or a boat is the best thing to do now, which is great, except they have no warning or no signage to tell them to slow down yet. It is coming, but I just wanted to get it out there that please slow down through that area. There's a lot of people. There was another one gentleman was just about electrocuted because the waves came over the dock and sparked up a fire. So it's a very dangerous area. It's a public safety issue. It doesn't add that much time to your journey, and you're out on the water, and I'm assuming having a good time. Another 5-10 minutes isn't going to hurt you to slow down. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I could tag on to the earlier bicycling. I previously served on the Public Safety Committee, and there's one thing I'd like to remind everybody now that we have bike lanes. They do go with the traffic. There are arrows in them. You're supposed to be riding on the correct side of the road with the traffic. When I was on the Public Safety Committee, we had a presentation. We were told you are 70% more likely to be hit by a vehicle if you are riding the wrong way. Because of the fact the way people turn out of side streets and things like that, they don't see you coming because you're coming the wrong way, not with the traffic. So where there is a bike lane, you're supposed to be on the side with the traffic moving that direction. And I constantly see it every day that people are riding against the traffic in the bike lane, which just causes more congestion because the bikes are crossing each other, et cetera. So
yeah, I didn't want my comment to be just about the bike markings. I mean, I think that green could go a long ways or similar on the crosswalks. We've heard a lot about the illuminated crosswalks. It's eye fatigue, it's things like that. I can tell you, you drive anywhere at night that has those on the ground, you see them coming a long ways away. Just any little reflection from any lighting from up above really reflects on those, and it lets you know that they're there. It does make it easier for people to see someone crossing if there is no beacon there. So it's just a thought. I'm not saying that we have to do it tomorrow or the next day, but I just wanted to keep the conversation open. That it would be nice to find out maybe what it's going to cost, what Lee County would or wouldn't be willing to help us out with, and at least just keep it fresh in people's minds.
Council Ehlers, the really effective way to do that is the inverted pyramid as you get close to a crosswalk. So you get sort of a pyramid and a little wider line leading up to the crosswalk. Horizontal lines running across the road. And that's very typically done to get people to understand they're approaching a crosswalk.
I mean, anything we can do I'm open to any suggestion that people would have to draw attention to where people are supposed to be crossing.
Okay, thank you very much. And my items, as long as we're on the bike thing, Boudreaux, Thibodeau, and I continue to dodge the electric bikes on the sidewalks. Since our last meeting, I've probably had 3 or 4 near misses. It's not going to be good when they mow down the mayor on the sidewalk. It's not going to be good. So I'll remind the citizenry, because I'm pretty sure most of these people are citizens. I don't think too many of the tourists are bringing down electric bikes with them, but that we're not to be riding electric bikes on the sidewalks. I had enough with the normal bikes, but the electric bikes, it's like riding a motorcycle on the sidewalks, which I've seen too. But anyhow, that's being said, and the other item I have is that since today is the 16th of the month, tomorrow is the 17th, which would put me in the 30-day zone for applying for a permit for St. Patrick's Day Parade. I will tell you that that is not going to happen this year. Again, I can't in good conscience, even though it probably would be turned down by the county and town, I can't in good conscience submit that application this year. Hopefully next year will be a better year for everybody, for all of the events, and hopefully we'll get back to normal. But so I'll be with you in spirit on that day, and in spirits, I'm sure somewhere. But anyhow, we'll go from there. Is there anything else for the good of the order this morning?
Mr.
Just
Mayor,
to add a little quick information to your bike, your electric bike thing.
Yes, sir.
Constituent sent me an article about Congress is going to be taking up a tax credit, potentially $1,500 for the purchase of e-bikes. This may be something that you want to look into. I open for.
I'm not following you. What do you mean?
Well, they're essentially going to discuss whether or not they want to give a tax credit to anyone that wants to buy an e-bike to help with carbon footprint.
We'll have more.
That's what I was getting at.
It's going to be an army. It's going to be like fiddler crabs, for God's sake. Was there something else, Jim?
well, I think I saw that you already had set the date for 2022 for the St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Did I?
Yeah, I think that was I want to say, because I'll probably see it, was it March 17th? Did I see that in the?
That would be the day, yes. So, well, good. I'm glad I did. I'll still have to get we'll still have to get
In the
permits.
spirit of optimism, yeah.
Anything else for the good of the order? If not, we'll adjourn. Yeah, I'll have a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Move, second. Is there
Second.
second? Any discussion?